guess we're getting a little bit far ahead of ourselves, but Franklin Graham finds you refreshing. He doesn't find me refreshing. Richard Spencer, the white nationalist leader, says he could vote for you.
Joy, this is why.
I mean, you're on
here.
Tucker Carlson at least 10 times. Why don't you go on Chris Wallace's show?
This is why I'm here, because you and other people continue to spread these innuendos that have nothing to do with who I am.
Well, Hillary Clinton started it, and then you shot back at her, boy. You called her the queen of warmongers.
You doubled down, unfortunately, you doubled down on the baseless accusations that she made that strikes at the core of who I am. I'm a soldier. Because of the attacks on 9/11, I enlisted in the military to go after and defeat and destroy the evil that visited us on that day. I've served now for over 16 years, deployed twice to the Middle East during the height of the war, where every single day I saw firsthand the terribly high human cost.
Tulsi Gabbard didn't walk onto The View. She stormed in. From the moment she took her seat, the energy in the studio shifted, thick with anticipation and barely contained tension. It was the kind of atmosphere where even the lights felt harsher, the silence louder. Joy Behar had no idea she was about to step into a confrontation she couldn't control, let alone escape. It started the way it always does. Joy flashed that familiar smug grin, tossed out a casual jab, and leaned back like she expected the moment to land safely. But this time, she went too far. The remarks weren't clever, they weren't sharp, they were weak, dismissive, and transparently aimed at boxing Tulsi into a corner. What Joy didn't expect was resistance. Real resistance.
I am a patriot. I love our country. I am a strong and intelligent woman of color, and I have dedicated almost my entire adult life to protecting the safety, security, and the freedom of all Americans in this country. It was the attacks on 9/11.
Tulsi didn't flinch. She didn't smile for the cameras. She didn't play along. Instead, she locked eyes with Joy, calm but unyielding, and delivered a response that hit like a sudden crack of thunder. When she labeled Joy a fool on live television, the studio froze. Audible gasps rippled through the audience as Joy's face flushed deep red, her confidence evaporating in real time. This wasn't banter anymore. This was open confrontation. Tulsi didn't pause to let Joy recover. There was no mercy window, no polite reset. Her gaze stayed locked, her posture steady, her voice slicing cleanly through the room like a blade. She made it clear immediately this wasn't a performance, and she wasn't here to be toyed with.
Let me just close this out, that Hillary Clinton, throughout her career, has led with a foreign policy of interventionism and being the world's police, going and toppling dictators in other countries that has caused such destruction and loss of life. I'm against that.
You think you can smear me and I'll just smile for the cameras? Tulsi fired back, every word deliberate. I faced enemies overseas who were more honest than this. The line landed hard. Shocked murmurs spread through the audience as Joy attempted a strained laugh, pretending the moment hadn't rattled her, but it had. The nervous glance Joy threw toward her co-hosts gave her away. The tension was suffocating, pressing down on the entire studio. Even the crew seemed unsure whether to move or breathe, while the other hosts exchanged uneasy looks, silently debating whether to intervene. Tulsi pressed forward, measured, controlled, and relentless. Each sentence carried more weight than the last, building momentum Joy couldn't stop. If you are enjoying this takedown, hit that subscribe button. You've made a career out of tearing down people you don't agree with, Tulsi continued, pointing directly at Joy. But today, you picked the wrong person. The audience reacted instantly, gasps mixed with applause, feeding the fire Tulsi had ignited.
So, before I ask you the first question, what's happening with the telescope and the stuff?
Oh gosh. The challenge is ongoing. The challenge is ongoing.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is that?
So,
Just explain.
they decided, it was decided that they were going to go on sacred land.
Oh yeah, I remember this.
And put up a telescope and do all this stuff. And the Hawaiians said, no, you're not going to do that. So it's been a fight. Tulsi's been at the forefront. Yeah. And I try to bring it up, you know,
I remember.
when I can, because it's, I think sacred land is sacred land. You can't, you know, you can't
anywhere.
mess with it. So I have to ask you this instead. So we were just talking about EU Ambassador Sondland changing his testimony yesterday, that he had to be refreshed about quid pro quo. And you've been skeptical more than a lot of the Democrats about the impeachment inquiry. Were you surprised by what he did yesterday?
Well, look, the facts are important, and we'll get to that. I want to start with something that I think is also important about fact.
Joy tried to interrupt, but Tulsi shut it down immediately. No, you've had your turn. Now you're going to listen. The authority in her voice silenced the room. Joy's trademark confidence cracked, her expression shifting as she realized control had slipped away. Tulsi didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. You call yourself a truth teller, she said evenly, but all you've done today is spread lies and personal attacks. The calm intensity behind the words made them impossible to dismiss. Everyone in the studio understood they were witnessing something that would not fade quietly. This was the kind of moment destined to dominate headlines and social media feeds. When Whoopi attempted to redirect the exchange by accusing Tulsi of being defensive, it backfired instantly. Tulsi wasn't rattled, she was focused.
It's offensive to me as a soldier, as an American, as a member of Congress, as a veteran, and frankly, as a woman, to be so demeaned in such a way.
But you called her the personification of rock.
So demeaned
She's a woman
in such
too.
a way. Well, I'm pointing to the fact that she has continued this legacy of being the world's police around the world, that has waged wars costing the lives of thousands of my brothers and sisters in uniform.
Tulsi responded without hesitation. No, I'm not defensive. I'm correcting you, because you're wrong and you know it. Scattered applause broke out, growing louder as a few audience members stood in support. Joy forced a stiff smile, her cheeks burning as the other host shifted uncomfortably, eyes flicking toward the cameras. No one dared interrupt. The standoff had become too raw, too real. Tulsi leaned back slightly, composed but cutting. You invited me here to talk, she said, yet all you've done is insult me. Is that what you call journalism? The sarcasm drew laughter from parts of the crowd, amplifying Joy's discomfort. The power dynamic had completely flipped. Desperation crept in fast and ugly. Joy began fumbling with her notes, shuffling papers that suddenly meant nothing, pretending to search for an exit that didn't exist. The confident smirk was gone. The control she usually relied on was slipping through her fingers in real time.
That's why I ran for Congress.
We actually have the clip of Hillary Clinton, just to put this in context of what we're talking about. Let's take a look at that.
I'm not making any predictions, but I think they've got their eye on somebody who's currently in the Democratic primary and are grooming her to be the third-party candidate. She's the favorite of the Russians. They have a bunch of, sites and bots and other ways of supporting her so far. And that's assuming Jill Stein will give it up, which she might not, because she's also a Russian asset.
So
Really? I mean, this is outrageous. This is outrageous and offensive on so many levels. I've served as a member of Congress now for almost 7 years, receiving high-level national security and intelligence briefings, serving on the Foreign Affairs Committee, the Armed Services Committee, the Homeland Security Committee, working to ensure the safety and security of the people of this country. This is why I'm running for president, to continue that commitment of service.
So are you surprised, though, that when people see bots and things and all the things that we've sort of been seeing heading your way, that people have these questions? Because she's not the only one. Hillary, I don't think, is the only one. So what she's saying is she feels they are grooming you. You're saying nobody's grooming me. I'm doing what I'm doing because I'm a soldier and a patriot.
It's offensive to me as a soldier, as an American, as a member of Congress, as a veteran, and frankly, as a woman, to be so demeaned in such a way.
But you called her the personification of rock.
So demeaned
She's a woman
in such
too.
a way. Well, I'm pointing to the fact that she has continued this legacy of being the world's police around the world, that has waged wars costing the lives of thousands of my brothers and sisters in uniform. I'm speaking out against that and
What's
to
your evidence
change
to that?
to change.
Well, can I?
Are you serious?
Let's hear it.
Are you serious?
Let's hear it.
I served in the war
Not
in
you,
Iraq.
her. You're saying that she's-
exactly.
she's a
I
warmonger.
served
How do
in
you
the
come
war
up with
in
that?
Iraq
Yeah.
that she championed. She championed a regime change war
Did you not
in
believe
Libya.
in that war?
I believe the lies that were told to us.
Well, so did she.
So it is indisputable. It is indisputable.
Tulsi noticed, and she didn't give an inch. This isn't about disagreement, Tulsi said firmly, her voice steady, deliberate, impossible to dismiss. It's about you spreading misinformation to millions of viewers. Intentionally. The word hung in the air like a dropped weight. The studio went dead silent. No laughter, no chatter. Just shock. Joy tried to regroup, stammering out a weak retreat, hiding behind a familiar shield. Well, that's just my opinion. It was the line people use when the argument is already lost. Tulsi cut in instantly, not allowing the excuse to breathe. No, she said sharply, that's not opinion. That's a lie. And there's a difference. The audience erupted. Applause thundered through the room, drowning out any chance of recovery. Joy's confidence visibly collapsed, replaced by tight expressions and restless movement. Every defense she attempted to raise crumbled before it formed. Tulsi had seized full control, methodical, composed, and relentless, stripping away the performance and exposing the tactic underneath. This wasn't a debate anymore. It was a dismantling, and everyone watching could feel it. Joy clutched her cards tighter, as if holding them could somehow restore authority. She glanced toward the camera, searching for rescue. None came. You've built your platform on attacking people like me, Tulsi said calmly, but you can't bully someone who's fought on real battlefields. The crowd exploded with cheers. Joy tried to smirk, but it dissolved under Tulsi's unrelenting stare. I'm just asking questions, Joy muttered. No, Tulsi corrected sharply. You're making accusations because you can't win with facts. Each word landed with precision.
To say anything other than the fact
Hillary,
let me just close this out, that Hillary Clinton throughout her career has led with a foreign policy of interventionism and being the world's police, going and toppling dictators in other countries that has caused such destruction and loss of life. I'm against that. I'm running for president to change that. Rather than actually debate me on the issues, she and others are resorting to these smear tactic campaigns, seeking to undermine me, smear my character, and sending a message to anyone who dissents, toe the line, or you too will be smeared.
Tulsi leaned in just enough to unsettle Joy further. You ignored my record, my service, my experience, because it doesn't fit your narrative. Joy looked to her co-hosts for help. None moved. Tulsi continued, steady and unshakable. I've served my country. I've seen war zones. I will not be belittled by someone who's never walked a day in my shoes. The audience rose, applause roaring. Joy looked trapped. We're not moving on until this is clear, Tulsi declared, her tone calm but immovable. The studio froze. This wasn't a suggestion. It was a line drawn in real time. You don't get to spread lies and hide behind a smile. She continued, eyes locked forward, refusing to let the moment slip away. Joy tried to interrupt, attempting a familiar deflection, but it collapsed instantly. Tulsi shut her down without raising her voice, reclaiming control of the room with sheer composure. You accuse me without evidence and pretend it's journalism, Tulsi said, cutting straight through the theatrics. That's not reporting, it's manipulation. The words landed hard. A beat of silence followed, then applause. Not polite clapping, real, sustained approval. The audience wasn't confused. They knew exactly what they were watching. Joy shifted, visibly unsettled, scrambling for footing that wasn't there anymore. Then came the line that sealed everything, delivered clean. No theatrics, no hesitation. If you don't want to be called out, Tulsi said, stop embarrassing yourself on national television. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Gasps, applause, shock rippling across the set. Joy opened her mouth, ready to fire back, then stopped. She closed it again.
I do want to ask you something else. Kamala Harris said recently that her race and gender are, quote, the elephant in the room, and that many still question if America is ready for a woman, and specifically a woman of color, to be president. And you're also a woman of color.
Yeah.
Is that, you feel, been a problem for you? Do you agree with her?
No, I think the American people are ready for a president that will put people ahead of politics, put people ahead of profits.
Then why is she saying that, you think?
You have to ask Kamala that. I can't speak to why she's saying that. But what I've seen in our travels across New Hampshire, we just came from New Hampshire yesterday, across the early states, we have some New Hampshire people here, is we are building a code to bring about the systemic change we need to see to take our government back from the rich and powerful who control it and make it so our government is truly of, by, and for the people.
No comeback formed, no clever pivot, no escape route left. For a brief, brutal moment, the power dynamic flipped completely. The host who thrived on control had none. The guest who was supposed to be managed had taken command, and everyone in the room knew it. You can spin this however you want, Tulsi said, but the people watching know exactly what happened. Thunderous applause followed as producers cut to commercial far too late. The damage was permanent. When cameras returned, Joy's tone had changed. Quieter, restrained. Tulsi sat poised, unmistakably in control. Attempts to lighten the mood failed. The audience was still buzzing. When Joy tried to call it a misunderstanding, Tulsi shut it down cleanly. "You made false accusations. I responded with the truth." Another roar of approval. The room froze as Tulsi delivered her final warning. Measured, calm, final. By the time Tulsi walked off the set, the explosion had already escaped the studio. Social media didn't react slowly, it ignited. Clips of her calling Joy out, refusing to back down, and demanding real accountability spread at breakneck speed. Hashtags started trending before the episode even finished airing, a rare sign that something had hit a nerve too hard to contain. Political commentators rushed in from every direction, dissecting every second, every look, every pause. Supporters applauded Tulsi's composure and courage, calling it a long overdue pushback. Even critics of The View labeled it one of the most brutal, unfiltered takedowns daytime television had seen in years. Joy, meanwhile, disappeared. No tweet, no statement, no follow-up. She stayed silent for the rest of the day, carefully avoiding cameras and commentary. But that silence only made things worse. The absence of a response poured gasoline on the fire, sending the clip into algorithmic overdrive. Tulsi, in contrast, leaned into the moment with control. She later posted a short but pointed message, thanking viewers for their support and reminding them that standing up for truth is rarely comfortable.
Because recently on your show here,
I was just going to get to that.
good, helping you out.
You want me to ask you the question?
Yeah,
No,
ask-
look,
ask
some
the
of
question.
you
Let me ask you the
have
question.
accused me of being a traitor to my country, a Russian asset, a Trojan horse, or a
We haven't accused you.
useful idiot, I think was the
Well,
term that you
useful.
used. Which basically means that I'm naive or lack
That's a
intelligence
Russian
to
term.
know what's going
they
on.
They use that.
I want to let your viewers know exactly who I am.
All right.
Set the record straight. I am a patriot. I love our country. I am a strong and intelligent woman of color, and I have dedicated almost my entire adult life to protecting the safety, security, and the freedom of all Americans in this country. It was the attacks on 9/11.
Always necessary. The message landed hard, racking up thousands of shares and comments within hours, reinforcing her image as someone willing to walk into hostile territory and stand her ground without flinching. By the end of it all, Tulsi hadn't just survived her appearance on The View, she owned it. She controlled the narrative, commanded the aftermath, and left behind a mark that neither Joy Behar nor the show itself could shrug off anytime soon. This wasn't just another on-air clash or recycled panel drama. It became a national reminder that even tightly managed platforms can't fully contain the truth, and when it breaks through, it cuts deep and stays unforgettable. For Joy, the sting lingered, a quiet reminder every time she sat in that chair that one guest had stood up to her openly, fearlessly, without apology, and without ever asking for permission.